Hello there.
Hello there. Welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are in bracket season here. We are going through the lightsaber battle bracket. Today we're doing our final region before the final four, doing the Ahsoka region. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. With us here, as always, the man who's voicing the narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Final region. We're here. We're finally here. Going to get to the final four, right? By
Yep.
after this.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely excited to talk to you guys as always.
Yep. Also here with us today, the man who has learned the lessons from 32 years prior to advance through a big lightsaber fight in his life. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'll be honest. This is my least interest, the region I'm least interested in. So let's get it over with.
Yeah, Nick, not thrilled about the bracket battles we have here today compared to some of the stuff we've had the last few weeks.
It's not that good of a region, but there are definitely some good battles here. So let's see what we get.
Definitely some different battles for sure here. And Pete wants to subscribe to the Sky Guys podcast and do so on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys of your podcast platforms, follow episodes there. And the bracket's starting to wind down. We got some more stuff planned. The off season goes a little longer before we start getting to the skeleton crew modes. Make sure you subscribe to keep up with everything.
Yeah, make sure you're subscribed. It's free. Helps us out, and also you get the content.
Yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep. And you can always check out the YouTube version, Mike Phillips on YouTube for the prop, for all the videos, images, the graphics, the props, and a lot of fun stuff here, but a little light on news this week. So I don't think we need news this week, correct?
No news. There's nothing out there. Just getting closer to Skeleton Crew, and Outlaws has been out for almost 2 months now. That's really all there is.
Yeah, it's a little, the tumbleweeds are rolling through here right now. So hopefully next week we'll have some more news to discuss.
And hopefully we get some more soon. We'll see.
All right, so let's get to what we're up to today. Here we have our final region here, the Ahsoka region. These are the four battles we're covering here. Ahsoka against Vader from Rebels season 2 finale, a little bit of season 4 as well when the World Between Worlds episode, the big Twilight Apprentice fight. Dooku against Yaddle from Tales of the Jedi won its play-in matchup to get to this point. The other two matches here, Obi-Wan and Vader from New Hope, the original lightsaber battle of Star Wars. And then it's Obi-Wan and Maul from Rebels. So the fight in season 3 on Tatooine that ends Maul's life for good this time. So these are the brows we're going through here. So it's going to be interesting here because we got 3 animated fights here next. So they're really animation heavy this week.
Yes, and the choreography, obviously, that we have to always discuss that. Besides that season 7 Ahsoka Maul fight, these are just animation, not motion capture fights. So when it comes to choreography, we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and P, I feel like this is more a point of emphasis with the first one we're dealing with, the Ahsoka Vader one. The other two, I don't think were as nuts cartoon wise as that one was.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so let's start at the top here. Ahsoka and Vader in the Twilight Apprentice, the season 2 finale Rebels. We see the most of this fight. We don't get the actual resolution until season 4 of Rebels, where we get the World Team World episode where Ezra witnesses the end before he pulls Ahsoka out of harm's way in that fight. So I get the big battle here where Ezra and Kanan are in the temple trying to steal the Sith holocron. Vader shows up, wrecks Ezra. Kanan's blind at this point. Ahsoka holds them off so that these two could get away. We have the big moment where Ahsoka slices Vader's mask off, and we get a little bit of Anakin popping through. He says, reads out to Ahsoka, and she decides to calm him down, saying, like, I'm not going to leave you this time. And it just enrages Anakin to the point where he turns back to Vader and says, you have to die. She shoves him out of the way. We don't learn what happens for 2 years, and we find out that she was going to basically sacrifice herself before Ezra pulls her out of time to save her from death. And then that's sort of one of the more iconic fights in Rebels, probably the iconic fight of Rebels. So, Nick, as the big Rebels guy here, like, what'd you think of this fight?
Me, the Rebels guy?
Yes, the Rebels guy.
Oh, well, I like Rebels, but this is a fantastic fight. Put this one and the Obi-Wan fight in the Obi-Wan show together, and you get two halves of the mask off. That was the first time we saw it here in this Rebels fight. Ahsoka getting off half his mask and seeing Anakin under there, and seeing for a second, hearing his voice again. Um, to be honest, though, I don't really remember the fight that much in terms of like the actual fighting.
Yeah.
I just kind of remember her running up to him and hitting his helmet off, and then blocking the lightsabers behind her head when Ezra and Kanan were escaping. Don't really recall much of the other stuff here, but obviously a huge moment that we saw a flash of Anakin Skywalker in that Vader mask.
Yeah. And Pete, I think one thing I think that it's obviously it's a really incredible to watch in terms of the action in this fight, but again, this is does get the demerit of like this is very unrealistic action to watch because it's animated, they can do whatever they want. Whereas like you watch some of the sequences here, like there is almost like no legitimate way, like even a stunt person could motion capture this accurately.
Yeah, I mean, I find that, like you said, with most of the animation, but I still think it was good.
Yeah.
I still think it was good. I think that it is memorable for me because of what it was, not like Nick was saying, the actual like actions of the fight. But I still enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, in terms of like iconicness, also, Nick, like this is sort of the signature fight of Rebels, and which is interesting because it doesn't involve any of our main characters from Rebels. This is a Clone Wars carryover character against Darth Vader, and this is something that like this is the high point of Rebels, as you said in the past. That like it does kind of go down a little bit from here, and interesting that like we don't get the resolution of this for 2 years in real time. So like in the time audiences kind of see in the corner eyes that Soka's slinking away, we don't really understand how that happens for a while.
It's true. Yeah, the only clue we really have is like the owl, right?
Yeah,
It's true. To be honest though, I think this is the weakest number one seed by a long shot in our bracket, but I think it deserves to be a once. Maybe not, but close to it. I just think it blows this corner of the bracket away though.
yeah.
So I'm very disappointed in the bracket and how it turned out. And this battle, although it has a lot of positives to it, like we mentioned, with the helmet coming off and whatnot, and seeing those two, I believe it's the first time they saw each other, right? Since Clone Wars, right?
Yeah, since season 7 of Clone Wars, the first time they've seen each
Right. So the first time they've seen each other, and at that point, it's what,
other.
15, 17 years
Yeah, I think about 17 years.
about 17 years first time they saw each other. So it's great like that, but at the same time, it's like, I ask you, what are the top four lightsaber battles in all of Star Wars? Right? Not just ask you. If I ask a lot of people, I don't think they're going to mention this fight.
Yeah. Pete, I do think also in terms of this being from the animated shows, I think this does hurt the story relevance a little bit because I mean, it's great if you follow the animated stuff, but if you're just like a live action watcher or a movie watcher, like you could like not see this at all and still have a complete picture of the story of Anakin and Ahsoka.
I Yeah, I mean, if you're just a live action Star Wars person, even if you didn't watch the Ahsoka show, like you didn't even know Ahsoka existed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunately like unless you followed the animated shows, you don't know who Ahsoka is. I mean, that was me before we started this podcast.
Yeah.
So, um, it hurts it a little bit. Not gonna lie, especially for people who never watched it before.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add here before we go to the next fight?
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead on to the play-in winner here. A surprise entrant from Tales of the Jedi, Dooku and Yaddle from Tales of the Jedi. This is sort of the at part of the conclusion of the Dooku trilogy in that show where we see his descent to becoming a Sith Lord, where after Qui-Gon dies in Phantom Menace, he doesn't go to the funeral, which is surprises Yaddle. She follows him to the seedy part of Coruscant that Palpatine likes to hide out in. She encounters him there. They have the fight when it's a little bit echoey of the Yoda fight in episode 2 in terms of the choreography and some of this stuff where Dooku basically throws her onto a door, tries to crush her with a door. She manages to avoid that fate, but basically like tuckers herself out and just like runs out of energy from trying to prevent a 1,000-ton door from falling on her. And then just collapses and Dooku kills her, cement his fall of the dark side here. So, Pete, what'd you think of this one?
I mean, uh, it's fine. I this is probably my least favorite I know it's a play-in, so I know it was ranked lower. Um, Overall, I think that it's interesting to see, but I think in the grand scheme of Star Wars, I don't know how important it is.
Yeah.
We get the sense that Dooku is bad from the beginning. We get the sense of the Emperor being bad from the beginning, right? It's interesting to see. It's content you love to see. But if we're gonna rank lightsaber battles, importance, everything like that, I feel like it's so low on the list. It's an easy matchup for me.
Yeah, Nick, I think in terms of like story importance, I think like it's nice. It solves a little plot hole we've been wondering about for years. Like what happens to Yaddle after episode one? You never see her again. And now we know why, because she died right after episode one. We get to see a little bit more of the moment where Dooku finally fully turns and has some moments here. You get to see a little bit of the echoes to episode two in terms of some of the actions is pretty cool. But again, this is sort of similar to the first one. It's like you don't need this to complete the story of Star Wars.
No, you don't. And Dooku looks like Nick Wright. It looks just like him. Um, Actually, I think for a while, Nick Wright's Twitter picture was Dooku from the show. But it's a fine battle. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like I mentioned earlier when I said you can be the top five battles in Star Wars. Anyone going to mention the Ahsoka Vader fight? I think if you said top 20, I don't think anyone's going to mention this fight. People are going to forget about it. Although I know the list it grows short what you get down there, but I don't think people are going to mention it. There's nothing wrong with the battle. It solves a plot hole, like you said. Maybe two. If you look at the Dooku side of it also, but I don't know. I think a lot of people don't even know this existed.
Yeah, I think even if you found it on YouTube, it's like 2 minutes long because it makes sense given the format of the show, Pete, the Tales of the Jedi stuff, but like a cool little side piece, extra content, but like not necessarily your overall enjoyment of Star Wars.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like I mentioned before. It's just extra content that a Star Wars fan would love to see, but I don't think anyone's like crying if they haven't seen it, you know.
All right, so let's go ahead here to the situation with this vote here. Is there anybody who wants to throw a vote towards Yaddle and Dooku?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I see
Nope.
it's a no from Pete as well. That's also a no from me, which I mean, this was impressive for Tales of the Jedi to get representation in this bracket, but not good enough for me. So, how'd the audience feel, Nick?
86 to 14. Obviously in our favor.
Yeah, amazing that you again, Dooku Yaddle getting votes from the audience is also very impressive.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know how.
Yeah. Maybe
With
someone
this one. I can see the other ones getting some votes. Like I earlier, which one was it? We were surprised. The Baylan Ahsoka one versus the Luke Vader, because face value, there's definitely better choreography, so you're gonna vote that right away.
yeah,
But in this one, I can't even think. You can't even say that.
yeah. And it's not surprising here, Pete, but I did think like the right one moved on.
100%.
All right. Let's go the other way here. We go to the original lightsaber fight, Obi-Wan and Vader from episode four against Obi-Wan and Maul and Rebels. And if you were rewatching at home on the YouTube front, if you go look these battles up here, you have to take about 5 total minutes to watch both of these in their entirety. So very quick work here, Nick.
Yeah. First one's about 4 minutes and 55 seconds. The second one's about 5 seconds.
Yeah. I think if you watch the YouTube clip I sent you guys, I think it's about like two and change on the Vader fight. So you want to start there, Nick?
Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, so we'll start with like Obi-Wan and Vader here. This is the very first lightsaber fight in the history of Star Wars. Vader is just looking around for Obi-Wan as he sends on the Death Star. They run each other. They kind of trade quips about how, oh, like last time I saw you, I was but the learner, now I'm the master. And Obi-Wan basically is going him like, oh, Darth, like if you kill me, I'll become stronger than you could ever imagine. They basically whack the lightsabers like just like so like the staff sort of like if you've watched like the jousting duel at medieval times, it's sort of like the way they're doing the lightsabers. And then all of a sudden, Luke runs in, he sees what's going on. Obi-Wan says, "This is my moment. I'm gonna like let him strike me down." And he does let Vader kill him. That's the end of this thing, and then that inspires Luke to go on and follow the Jedi path the rest of the way here. So, Nick, tell me what you think about this one.
Um, I mean, obviously the choreography suffers tremendously, and I think even at the time it suffers tremendously
Yeah,
because we just looked at last week 1980 and 1983 choreography with the Luke Vader battles, and it blows it out of the water.
yeah,
I know it technology advanced between 80 and 7 or 77 and 80. Didn't advance that much.
yeah,
Choreography in this fight was pretty rough, but pretty cool battle in terms of importance, and especially after you watch the prequels, going back and watching this, you're like, wow, this is really cool. And you know, at the time when you watch this for the first time and you see Obi-Wan, like, you strike me down and become more powerful. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
yeah.
And then you get to see that later on, and you're like, oh, okay, pretty cool. Like, he died on purpose. That's really cool. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in this fight. It's the first time you see lightsabers at all. No, you see it in on Tatooine in Obi-Wan's house, but first time you see a red one.
First time you see them fighting, two people fighting with the lightsabers.
First time you see the yeah, sometimes you feel fighting with them, and the first time you see a red one, so that's cool.
Yeah,
That definitely means something. Like, even though may not be the best, you do have to look at it and say the original meant something.
yeah.
'Cause
That's
it caused all of this. If this movie and this fight didn't happen, the rest of the movies and fights didn't happen. We don't happen. We're not even sitting here right now. I'm probably upstairs.
yep. And Pete, I will give a pass on the choreography because this is supposed to be like two old guys busy past their prime, where like Obi-Wan is like really rough shape here in terms of physically. Vader obviously has been lumbering around in the suit for years. So like at that point, it kind of feels like sort of like the when you go watch the old rock band come out for one last time, they're throwing the mic to the crowd to hit the high notes.
I mean, I'll disagree with that because Vader gets in two more fights that are much better choreographed. So I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like for Vader to be like, I'm the master now, and to say it's because he's older and he's been in the suit. We saw episode 5 and episode 6, and he does perfectly fine there. So I'll disagree with that. I understand where you're coming from. Um, I, it's gonna be a hot take. I'm gonna get a lot of hate from this. This lightsaber battle, it's bad. The importance is good. The importance is good. The storyline of it, I'm sure back when it first came out, it was like, wow, lightsabers, like this is super cool. But if you look at it compared to everything else that we're doing, to me, like Nick said, there's really no excuse for the choreography. And I just don't think it's good. I think it got its seeding, and I think it got its points because of how iconic it is to the fan, not because how well done it was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't remember a score. The setting was cool-ish. It was in the hallway of a hangar,
Yeah.
right? The importance is, yes, it's there, right? Obi-Wan becomes a Force ghost at that point, and he's a lot more powerful, and that holds a lot of weight. And I'm not saying the storyline behind it doesn't. Just the lightsaber battle itself, I just think is bad.
Yeah. Let me throw this out here also as a discussion point here, because now we've seen Obi-Wan Kenobi show. We've seen the lightsaber battle they have 10 years before this canonically, so 9 BBY. So we see the fight we have there. Does seeing what they did 10 years earlier hurt this fight in retrospect, guys? So I'll go to Nick first.
No, it doesn't hurt the fight. It just wasn't necessary.
Yeah, you just feel like it was not.
It still remains true, everything they say, but I don't love it.
Yeah, because this is something a big controversy at the time. People were watching Obi-Wan. It's like, why are we having the rematch when canonically, like, they should not have seen each other again between 3 and 4? But we have this admittedly cool to watch fight in episode 6 of Kenobi, and another one where Vader wipes the floor with him 3 episodes earlier. But like, all the lines technically are true, but I don't know if it just loses its luster a little bit because now we have a second meeting that was not envisioned in 1977.
I don't think so. I personally think, and I've said it before, I understand the importance of canon and I understand everything. But if they switch canon, to me it's like, okay, like I understand. Like we're talking about a show or movie about like guys flying in space in the galaxy, going to different planets, hyperspeed, lights. Like to me, it's like people take it way too seriously. I just enjoy it. I understand if you do a huge retcon or a huge change, sure, but like the fact that he said last time or whatever, I was the apprentice to the master. Like, yeah, technically what he said was right. Obi-Wan beat him, so it's like there you go. It's like to me, it's not the biggest of deals. I just appreciate what I'm seeing on the screen, so I don't think it damages any reputation or any canon, in my opinion.
Yeah. I also add here, we talked about this a little bit in the lost episode of the first four playing here. We discussed this lightsaber battle here. I do think it's also interesting that the Obi-Wan Vader fight in Kenobi basically is the way they have to twist everything to sort of justify all of the word choices used in the original trilogy, where like Vader says, "I killed Anakin," and like there was a great meme going around right after that show, Pete, where like Anakin, where Luke says to Vader, like Obi-Wan, like, "Why didn't you tell me that he's my father?" It's like, I'm just saying what he told me.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, let's go to the other animated fight here. Obi-Wan against Maul in Rebels. This is on season 3, the episode where Ezra goes to Tatooine to try and find Obi-Wan. And he runs into Maul after the fact. Maul senses Obi-Wan, just goes after him and basically realizes, hey, like, why are you just hiding out here in the desert? Like, there's a lot of things you could be doing with your life, and you're just here. He's like, oh, wait. It's like, you're here protecting something. It triggers Obi-Wan. They light their lightsabers up. Maul goes to the same kill shot that he went for with Qui-Gon in the Duel of the Fates. Obi-Wan is prepared for it, slices Dual Blade in half and kills him, and basically comforts Maul as he finally actually dies and tells him like something about protecting the Chosen One, even though it's not canonically accurate. So, Pete, what do you think about this fight from Rebels?
Um, Again, don't really remember the whole sequence. Don't know how important is the overall story, but I do think the build up to this was very real. I think the rivalry of Maul and Kenobi finally comes to an end here, and I think that's the part that stands out to me more so than the fight itself, the choreography, the score, and stuff like that. So I think it struggles as well.
Yeah. I think the thing that helps it, in my opinion, even though like it's very quick on the actual watch, I do think seeing the payoff of the move from episode one and Obi-Wan remember 30 years later, oh, Maul tried this. Let me counter it. That was pretty cool.
It was. This battle was really, really good, and also like kind of like oh, so disappointing at the same time. Like we wanted to see more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We wanted to see more. That would have been really cool to see more, but at the same time, it's like I get it. Obi-Wan's the same age that he was in A New Hope. How do you explain him jumping around, having an epic battle with Maul, and then 2 weeks later, or whatever it is,
2 years.
2 years later, more like, yeah, 2 years later, he's can't do anything against Vader on the Death Star. Although you could argue, well, he's trying to lose against Vader on the Death Star, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
Um, the buildup is unbelievable. The atmosphere is unbelievable. The closure of the Maul story is great because if you have all this, you have what you did in the Phantom Menace with him, and you have all the Clone Wars stuff minus the last season there that hadn't happened yet. But you can flip the storybook around and just look at it chronologically. You have him doing the crime syndicate stuff, taking over Mandalore. Then at the end of Clone Wars, he gets captured, disappears. Then he shows up in Solo again, and he's running Crimson Dawn. And then you see 10 years later, he's deserted. He's looking for Obi-Wan on Tatooine. Finds it like it's a great story, but it's a great closure to the Maul story.
Yeah, it certainly is here. And P, I also think in terms of this setup here with Maul and Obi-Wan, like I do think very interesting stuff as well. Like especially the whole like thing, like, oh, like you can avenge us, like they'll avenge us because sort of realizing that like, hey, we both got played by Palpatine in this long game here, and like our lives don't matter anymore. Whereas, the Obi-Wan situation, he looks at this and goes, okay, like Maul's gone, like I'm probably gonna be gone soon, but like what we did, like this next generation will like make up for our mistakes.
Yeah, I really like it. I think the service to this is the live action versus the animated folks.
Yeah.
I think the animated folks that watched like us watched everything have a much better appreciation for it than the people who've only watched the live action stuff. Not to say there's a problem with that. If you only watch the live action stuff, that's fine. I understand that. I was one of those people as well before this podcast. So I think that's the only disservice that I take away from this. And also, I think because of that, it delegitimizes Maul's story a little bit too, right? Like in theory, you can watch all the live action stuff, and Maul being around doesn't really affect anything. So it's a bit of disservice to the Maul storyline. So it's something to think about when we vote here.
Yeah, it is here. So, anybody else want to add anything before we vote?
No, let's do it.
All right. So, Pete, I'll let you go first.
So I'm going to go by the camp of you've seen the animated and the live action.
Yeah.
I I just don't think the amount of iconic praise the episode 4 lightsaber battle gets, I don't think that can stand a chance, right? I think the importance of the story when it comes to Maul and it comes to the, choreography, again, it's hard to debate um because of animated versus whatever, but I just feel like episode 4's lightsaber battle, as important it might be, it just wasn't a good battle in my opinion. So I'm going to go the Maul Obi-Wan finale.
Yeah. I'm gonna send this to Nick on a tie break here. I'm gonna put the Obi-Wan Vader fight through because yes, the choreography is very bad. I'm not gonna try and tell you it was a good looking fight. It was not. But I think obviously 1977, like you gotta realize that they're figuring out what they want to do with this one. You got the limits to probably Alec Guinness doing it, so it doesn't look realistic if he's, jumping around being spry at his age. So that's something to consider here. And I do think importance of triggering the whole story forward here, I think gives me its vote here. So Nick, you can break the tie.
I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with you, Mike. I'm not gonna give this a pass on the choreography though, because in 1980 they were able to make it look so much better. To me, this is something that I'm like, there's something up here. I guess you could say the Alec Guinness thing, sure, but this one to me is just too iconic, being the original battle to have it be bounced in round one.
Yeah, to a fight that lasts about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think any other three seed, I think this loses.
The audience score on this is 56 to 44 in our favor.
Yeah, so this was a close one from the audience too. And like it shows, I think like if Obi-Wan and Vader is in another region, I think it gets bounced. Because I think our other three seeds.
I think so. I mean, I'm the one that voted against it, so.
Yeah. All right, so we have a 1 versus 2 battle here in the final. Ahsoka and Vader from Rebels, Dooku and Yaddle. Obi-Wan and Vader from the original movie. I'm gonna go with the Ahsoka Vader fight. I do think here, like, yes, it's animated. Yes, the choreography is unrealistic looking, but I think unrealistic looking, but like much more exciting to watch than what we got in the Vader Obi-Wan fight. So, Nick, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to push it through. I agree with you. Unfortunately, I think it's an unfortunate region, but I'm going to push that one through.
Pete, would you like to give Obi-Wan and Vader a vote, or are you going to make this unanimous?
Unanimous. Not giving them the vote.
All right. So, as a record time, the
audience
is still going.
The audience poll's still going. It's been up for 3 hours. There's 21 left, but it's 75-25 right now in agreement with us with actually more, weirdly enough, more votes than we've gotten on like any other post so far. I'm not really sure why, but maybe it's the timing of when I put it up, but I would imagine it will stay, but I will update you when it goes final, but I'm assuming it will stay.
Yeah, so next week when we do the final four, we'll discuss what the final vote on this was when we reveal the final people.
Yeah, you can pencil it through, but it might change. We'll see.
All right. So next week we're gonna do the final four here. So we have 3 1 seeds and a 3 seed. So not a lot of craziness going on here. So
well, think about it like this: a 3 seed is the equivalent of like a 12 seed.
Yes.
In the NCAA tournament. Think about it like that.
Yeah, they do. So let's wrap it up here. I think it's coming on here. Pete, people follow you on social media. How can they do that?
At Consi29 on Twitter, AP Teller 308, create the background I'm using on Reddit.
All right, Nick, one more time. People follow us on social media. How can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep, you can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. This is over on Just on Suffering podcast, getting you ready for the World Series here. So, as of recording time, matchup not finalized yet. So, we're going to see who the Yankees end up playing, Nick.
We don't know about that.
Yankees
They were up 3. They were up 20 years ago. They were up 3-0 after scoring 19 runs in Game 3 and lost the series. So I am not getting. I'm not saying that they're advancing.
The Guardians are not the Red Sox.
The Red Sox weren't the Red Sox until they were the Red Sox.
All right, so I'm putting it out here, recording in the middle of the ALCS. So we'll discuss that next. That podcast over there. We'll be back next week for the Final Four. Until then, may the Force be with you.